Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Add 10 Gallons Concrete Podcast. I am your host, Josh, and I am joined by nobody at the moment. Paul and Joey are on assignment. We have some busy times right now in the world of ActiGel 208. We're on job sites and projects and trials all the time, and it is May after all, and we hope that you guys are out there making hay while the sun shines as well. It's certainly our busy season, and we hope it's yours. Also, the beautiful thing about a podcast is it is usually a multitasking endeavor, and wherever you're driving, whatever you're working on, whatever you're doing, we hope that you're listening in to us at the same time, and we hope to bring you some entertainment and some information as we always strive to do, and we certainly intend to do that here with this episode. We have Billy Ripple on the program. Billy works in IT for Command Alkon. We've had a few Command Alkon reps on in the past. Billy, in particular, is on the IT side, and he really gives a deep dive into AI, data acquisition, gathering data, and then using it and presenting it in a way that's easy to read and manipulate and ascertain what the data is trying to tell you. He also talks extensively about his background, how he got into the IT field, and one important thing he talks about is the importance of IT in the concrete industry. We discuss how if you are a younger kid going through high school, getting into college, you have an IT interest, you wouldn't look at the concrete industry as an actual target or some place that would have well sought after jobs in the IT field. And we debunk those myths or those stereotypes. And we talk about how the presence of technology is not only integral in the success of concrete plants and concrete businesses all throughout the world. It's gotten to the point where it is an essential tool that you have to have in order to compete, especially in certain low margin areas, which most areas are low margin areas within the concrete world. So Billy comes with a lot of really great insight that we're excited to have you guys listen to. But however, we're going to get to our interview here as it's just me. I'm going to try not to make this into a radio DJ session. I don't like to hear myself talk anyway. So Billy's got more important things to say, and hope you all enjoy.
All right, welcome back today. We have a very special guest, another one from Command Alkon. This is 2 this year. It's pretty exciting, guys. We've got Mr. Billy Ripple on the show. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Yeah, well, hey, why don't you go ahead and let the people know what is your background into industry? How in the world did you end up where you are today?
Great question. I kind of started off the beaten path a little bit. Whenever I was, younger, when I got my first computer, I really knew that somewhere in technology was going to be my where I wanted to end up. It was very clear for me that I had a natural affinity, and I knew I wanted to end up in technology some way. Now, how I did that, I wasn't quite sure. So I started off as a janitor at a local aerospace company fresh out of high school, and I worked there for 7 years before I got laid off. And it was a really great, highly revered company in the defense industry, so most folks don't leave there, and if they do get laid off, they come back. But whenever I got laid off from there, I said, okay, now I'm in a position where I can make that shift towards technology. So I've always been a bit of an IT guy in the background for family and friends, but I wanted to make this my career at that point. So that was January of 2015 when I got laid off. And I started doing just some local IT work for some MSPs at schools and things like that. And then I saw a job ad pop up for a local ready-mix mining and trucking company. It was here in the DFW area. And I'm looking at the job ad, and at this point, I had done developed knowledge in networking and systems administration, basic help desk stuff, virtualization, data centers, things like that. And then I see this job ad, and I'm like, they make concrete. Why does a concrete company need someone with virtualization experience? Why do they need networking experience? All of these things. So from there, I applied, got the job, started there as an IT support specialist in July of 2017, and we were a 5-plant ready-mix operation, 2 quarries, and a trucking company to haul the ag and cement, flash, all the cementitious materials. So I started there in July, and just under a year, The CIO I reported to, he had left the company, and I got promoted to IT manager, and I was IT manager until our company got acquired in August 2020. So the company that acquired us, they didn't need another IT guy in their army of IT folks. So I developed during that time period from July of 17 until August of, well, until now, obviously, because I'm at Command Alkon. But I developed a really great relationship with a lot of the folks at Command. We were a full Command Alkon shop, so we had Track It for our ready mix and ag trucks. We had Command Batch for our concrete plants. OnBase for AR. We had Integra for dispatch, Command QC for QC, obviously. So we ran their full product suite. So I developed, from a support perspective, supporting all the various departments in the company as well as the batch plants, to develop some great relationships. So whenever I got laid off, I started making some phone calls. Or I didn't get laid off. Let me correct that. Whenever after the acquisition happened, the owner of that company didn't lay me off. He kept me employed, but it really felt like I was stealing from him because there was no work left to do. There was nothing. We didn't have 100 mixers to manage anything with, no devices, no technology. So I really had no, it felt like I had no path onto how I can increase the performance of the company. So that's when I started calling folks at Command and that I had worked with over the years, and it just happened to work out. So I started at Command Alkon in June of 2021 as a senior solutions analyst, and I was doing implementation for our Rucket product, our truck and dispatch product, and our Connects Office product, both of which are going to get rebranding here soon. So if this airs in the future, it'll be referred to as ticket accounting and integrated trucking. So just a heads up. But yeah, I was doing implementation for those two products. And then about a year into that, I switched over to a more, my title now is a solution specialist. So pretty much I cover a broad range of different software products, one of which being ticket accounting, formerly Ticket Pro, Connects Office, Rucket, which will be integrated trucking, Integra, Command QC, and our latest cloud-based offering is our dispatch product, our cloud-based dispatch product for ReadyMix. So it's kind of similar to a sales engineer role that other companies would have for their product lines.
No, it's fascinating. Yeah, don't think about that often, actually, that the ReadyMix guys, especially the big ones, could use like a legit IT person on staff. He actually got me thinking about our company. Our company, we're a mining company. We mine clay out of the United States, and we've got IT folks. And you might not necessarily think, as an IT guy coming from that world, you might not think like, oh, these people who are just digging holes in the ground, taking dirt out of the ground, they need an IT support specialist.
They absolutely do. I was very much that naive and thought the exact same way. I'm looking at this job ad, and for me, I just wanted to be closer to home because my son had just been born. I was working these crazy hours, and this company was close. So I was like, well, I'll just apply to it and just ride this thing out. Let's see what they can offer. And oh my God, it's like I stepped on the biggest piece of bubble gum that I couldn't take off my shoes. It just and you're exactly right. We had two mines, and I can't tell you how many hundreds of feet of Cat 5 cable I've had to run from a generator to a switch to get internet connectivity and just things like that. It's so overlooked, and I wish outside of any additional message, I wish other folks who are passionate about IT and technology would take the time to get into this industry. It's amazing how much technology is in this industry trying to innovate at the level in which we're trying to.
Well, that's also actually, that's another great point, that if you have companies like Command and others that are trying to push all these technology solutions, and we bring up a lot of them on this show because we think the new tech's fascinating. One of the things we always talk about is how are you going to make this easy for the people there to use? Because most likely the person you're broadcasting the service toward is not a IT oriented type of individual. So how do you think we get the word out there?
That's a great question, and one I don't know how I could properly articulate that. One of the things I've thought of in the past is there's a lot of in our MCAs and one of the associations down here in Texas, there's TACA. I wish there was, and something probably does exist. I just don't know about it. But some kind of technology effort similar to CIM, but focused specifically on the software and technology and the IT aspect. I had a brief stint with an enterprise operation, and the amount of server hardware they owned in a data center would trample most other companies that are dedicated to doing IT, such as an MSP. I mean, their infrastructure was just insane. So it can be very rewarding too, from a quality of life standpoint. So I do wish there was a better way to get that message out there, because we could, this industry can always use some additional exceptionally intelligent people to, move the needle even further.
Well, another thing that you kind of touched on a little bit, but you didn't say it specifically, but I'll say it here. When you work for a concrete company, I imagine it's the same for an IT guy. It sounded like you were alluding to this, but we see this when you're working with these companies, that you end up taking on so many roles and having to learn how to do so many things that if you're like this narrow vein IT person, you're going to have the breadth of things that you're going to become proficient and competent in is mind-blowing.
Oh, it absolutely is. And what's interesting at that point is because I was terrified of that. I was terrified of initially being a jack of all trades IT guy, having a knowledge base a mile wide but only an inch deep. But in reality, that has paid dividends to my advancement in this career, because I can touch, especially when I'm doing like a demo with an IT manager, for example, or a CIO or something. I can touch in all aspects of, the process of their on-premise environment, for example. But initially, I remember at one point I was so scared of not having like dedicated knowledge in, let's say, networking, that it was like, okay, I've had a good run so far at this IT manager thing. I'm covering a lot of different technologies, a lot of different segments, and what encompasses IT. I need to focus my path on a specific path. So I remember I applied for a network engineering job, and they made me an offer. And I remember going to my boss at the time and telling him, and he was like, "Man, his exact words were, you would be doing a disservice by getting out of this industry." Not because of my skills. That's not what I'm trying to convey here. It's more importantly, he was saying like this industry needs folks like you with a really strong IT background, that I think you would be doing a disservice to your career as well as your family moving forward by only going into network engineering. So completely agree. It's been great for me personally. I imagine other folks have the same story as well.
I appreciate you sharing all that, because everybody on this call here at one time has been scared of something that we didn't know. And, a couple of us got concrete degrees, but I mean, I've stood inside of precast plants and didn't have a clue what I was looking at. Oh. And I was there to try and make their business better. And I was like, well, dang, okay, I know concrete, but I don't know any of this, but I mean, we'll figure it out as we go. And yeah, you absolutely scared to death.
Imposter syndrome hits hard sometimes, and it can really shake you to the point to where it's like, all right, I just need to get back into my comfort zone. But
absolutely. Well, it sounds like you found a good home with Command, though. I mean, you're with that strong IT, go into ready mix, and then come out of that, because with Command now, you at least you actually legit understand the challenges that those folks are facing on the ground.
Absolutely. And whenever I get into a technical deep dive or a discovery conversation, one of my biggest goals is to really uncover some of that pain. And I remember thinking at the ready mix operation I was at, we were so unique. We, everything we did was it felt chaotic, but it worked for our business structure. And then once I got outside of that and I started working at Command, I'm working with all these other ready mix companies across the world. They're all similarly have their own structure and how they do business, and it's not too dissimilar from how we did it there. They're really just, trying to make concrete and then trying to build customers and trying to make some money at the same time. Once I got, the grass wasn't necessarily greener on the other side. Not all these other companies had a significantly better process to achieve goal A, B, and C. That's what I try to extract out of the customer whenever I'm speaking with them. What are some of the problems you're having, and then let me tell you about the solutions that can fix that.
Right. Well, yeah, we're all definitely more similar than we are different for sure. And you've been in the industry long enough. I'm interested to hear your take on this, being an IT guy.
Mm-hmm.
The influx of technology, I feel, has been rampant in
Huge.
probably the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, give or take. Have you seen new technology that's been implemented to certainly make a difference in the concrete industry, create more of a vacuum or an issue somewhere on down the line? Is it kind of like pulling a thread where the more efficient you get in certain areas, it brings out the inefficiencies in other areas and you're just kind of playing whack-a-mole with technology?
Yeah, to an extent. And a lot of that I think comes from the difficulties of navigating change management, especially when you implement new software for folks that have been accustomed to using the same software for X amount of decades at this point, especially with respect to Command. Integra and Command series have been on the market for several decades at this point, and to implement a new software that you think and know that can increase efficiency once it's fully implemented and folks are trained right, you still have to navigate that initial phase of change management. So it can certainly have its negative effects, but if you had that person on site and you've got your champion and someone who can, essentially be an extension of Command Alkon that is seeing that implementation through, usually it ends up being a success.
How much beta testing is used when you roll out new software, and what does that process look like? Do you use champions to beta test, or you guys do all of that in-house?
No, well, we do some of it in-house, and we have what's referred to often as called an early adopter program. So for our cloud-based dispatch, for example, we started developing that, I think, a little over 2 years ago at this point. And we had, I think, the initial early adopter folks that we kind of primed our target audience for were just, 1 to 2 plants, maybe a few more, but we really kind of vetted out their operations and told them, hey, this is our new product. This is an early adopter situation. This isn't a general availability go-to-market. Now it is. But at the time, when we were initially starting it, and it's absolutely critical to have early adopters, especially as customers, because that feedback that they give us will literally write up a development task to add that feature into the product. We use a software called Jira, and that's how we task our development team to do certain tasks to develop for the product. And we'll literally put in some of those, they call them Jira cards, and we'll literally put in Jira cards the customer name that requested it. So the amount of feedback that Command Alkon gets, not only from customers who aren't even early adopters, to tailor the product for hopefully the broader audience of use, it's really hard to put into words how critical that feedback is. We can have internal meetings all day long, but it really kind of becomes a bit of an echo chamber. You need that various different business practices, going back to how we kind of ran our ready mix operation and thinking it was so different from everybody else. You need that broad spectrum of different feedback from various customers to really make an outstanding product. So early adopter phase for the dispatch product itself, our cloud-based dispatch, I think we had it, and I'll probably get corrected on this. I think we were an early adopter for at least a year and a half, and then we ultimately achieved general availability, and so far we're seeing great success. We've got a target market for it. We're still developing every single day, as well as some new products coming to market too, which I think we'll talk about here pretty soon.
Yeah, well, before we do, my last general question, when you're going through this beta process, and you just mentioned it yourself, there's always a new product on the horizon. What's the sense of urgency like? Because if you wait till something's perfect, you might not ever roll it out to the general public. But
it should have been done yesterday. And it's not. It's not.
I told you
he's got the same managers we do.
We're more different than we're more the same than we are different. Right?
Yeah, and it's really tough because that's where I have to give respect to product owners and product management. When I was a customer, there were times where I would receive an invoice or we would sign up for a product, and it would even be a Command Alkon product, and it maybe didn't quite offer everything we expected it to achieve. And we would send that feedback back to the product team, and then at Command. It really went back to our salesperson, and then they take that feedback and get it back to product. And it's really, once I got on this side of the fence, on the Command, the software side, it's extraordinarily difficult to be a product owner for, let's say, dispatch or inventory. And you get all this feedback coming. And every single customer wants this implemented because it would immediately affect how well their operations run. And it's an art to be able to juggle all those different tasks and try and determine, okay, if we develop this today, how many customers could we affect versus this one customer to make them extremely happy. So I props to anybody who does product management just in software in general, or trying to determine what path to move forward. It's extremely difficult, but yeah, customers certainly, if they see an opportunity or something they would love, it's something that, all right, we should have had this done already, but it certainly takes time.
Well, one of the things Command is doing is bringing like an entire ecosystem of services and trying to bring them all together. Do you
Exactly
face, when I looked at that, I thought that was interesting. I just don't know how many guys are getting to sign up for like the entire ecosystem. Is it tough for you as Command to help people when they just want to pick and choose like one service or another, and you're like, oh, this would be so much easier if you would just do like these other three with it, please.
So personally, yeah, I get in a discovery with the customer, and it's, let's say, they're running, a different batching software, but everything else they have is Command Alkon. There's some products that we haven't quite integrated with third-party solutions just yet. And yeah, it's like, why couldn't you just be running Command Batch? Life would be so much easier for both of us at this point. And that has its own challenges, but, it's no secret that, Command Alkon does have a pretty great market share within this industry. So luckily, more often than not, when we get into a discovery phase with customers, they're already running most of our software products. We certainly have our more densely populated areas versus competitors, and that's true for any of the software offerings and that we offer, as well as other vendors too. But it definitely makes life easier. Now, I will say, we are kind of changing our focus and our strategy with respect to an API first methodology. So, we want to make customers' data available to them and let them do what they want with their data via an API first methodology. So to me, I think we're past an infancy stage in getting that developed. We're certainly... we have some customers utilizing our tickets API via Connects today, so there's a lot you can do with just ticket data alone. But we have an extraordinarily extensive API backlog coming soon that we're going to be referring to as version 4. And really, it's going to seemingly feel like there's not a piece of data that we can't extract via an API. And that's going to be extremely powerful for some of the customers who need whatever data that's within their current Command Alkon software they use today. So
yeah, the skill of being able to design a mixed design is going to go away. We're just going to be searching these databases, and you just know everything about everything.
That's exactly right. It's especially with AI and machine learning being in its infancy. If once we start applying some of that to tweak a mixed design based on historical data or something like that, we're not there yet. I'm sure somebody's testing it somewhere, but I agree with you. I think eventually it's all going to get some algorithm thrown to it.
Yeah, well, there's a couple folks that are already doing the AI side of this, and I believe Command's one of them. And
we are, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but eventually you're going to be able to, in my mind, you're going to use it like Chat GPT,
That's
and you're
exactly
going to type
right.
into, you're going to type into it, you're going to say, I'd like to have a mix that is 4,000 PSI that's going to be for an exterior floor, and these are the aggregate, I'm going to use this stone and this, or these are my sources. Like, you don't even have to tell it how much of whatever you want. You say, these are my sources. It's going to comb through all the historical data and say, this is the exact mix design you need based on historical data, and then it submits everything straight to the GC or the state or whoever needs everything. It's going to be super quick. It's going to be unbelievable.
I can't wait for that day personally. Mainly because I'm I'm so insatiably curious, and I just can't wait to see how AI and machine learning is going to affect our industry. And our industry with respect to technology and software has traditionally been slower to adopt than other, cybersecurity, for example. That's super easy to adopt really quick. But when you've had dispatchers using the same program for 30 years, and it makes it a little tougher to get buy-off from the people who you're trying to sell with. So, yeah, we will get there one day. But luckily, for me personally, that's great job security. So I'm okay with that.
Well, that AI bot is going to have to be right, because right now, I can type stuff into Chat GPT and it gives me the wrong answer. Like, okay, just real quick, in the middle, I have a statistics class that I'm in, and couldn't figure out how to do it. So I was trying to get the AI bot to do it for me, and I was like, I don't think that's the right answer. So I just spent a little more time, got the answer, and I was like, okay, I think the chat bot's wrong. So I submitted my answer, and we went into class, and I was asking somebody, like, hey, I ended up asking the professor because he thinks AI is cool too. So
oh yeah,
I was like, hey, just to let you know, I tried to cheat on my homework, but I think it gave me the wrong answer, so I went with what I had. So, but yeah, so it was spitting out the wrong answer to statistical equations. Even though it got the equation correct, it got the solution incorrect, which was like super strange. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that seems backwards almost. Like, what's interesting is I've seen Chat GPT, write SQL query strings and stuff like that, and it just nails it. But you would think something that seems relatively simple as far as math goes, it would just get it dialed right off the bat.
Yeah, I told it. I was like, this is my sample size, my mean, my standard deviation, blah blah blah, and could you write it in using R code?
Yeah,
it wrote it all out perfectly, but gave me the wrong answer. I was like, I don't think that's right.
I'll take that though. That's pretty cool. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it was fun. And today, you came on here. We did want to talk about one thing that's coming out, something that's new. It's about inventory management. It's so new that we tried to look up some stuff on it. I did personally. I couldn't really find anything. So why don't you? I wanted to come in prepared to be like, all right, this is what we're talking about. And I was like, you know what? You're just gonna have to start from the very basic level for us. If this was Chat GPT, I'd say Billy GPT, explain inventory management like we're 5-year-olds.
Oh man, I love it. Explain it like I'm 5. So there's different levels, right? The initial thing that we've found a lot of traction with is I like to think of it as 3 different stages of success in completing this story that I'm gonna try to articulate right now. The first one is, between our software offerings that we have, in addition, using what's called ticket accounting and inventory. Trucks pull into the concrete plants and they drop off paper tickets. And at the end of the day, the batch operator, and in my experience, those batch guys and gals, they'll work I don't even know how some of them are still alive. They'll just seemingly work 20 hours a day and then come in 3 hours later and do it again 6 days a week. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. But they get a batch of tickets in at the end of the day. They're in command batch and they're having to type in. Or they could be doing it during the day, but depending on how busy your plan is, in my experience, I always saw them doing it at the end of the day. So they'll run their end-of-day report in command batch, and then they've got this stack of paper tickets, and they'll punch it into inventory into command batch. And that's the standard. That's the status quo. And where we wanted to try to disrupt that using the technology we offer is, hey, how about you just take a picture of this paper ticket and then let us extract the data, us being command, obviously, and then we'll send that data after we extract it and update your command batch inventories automatically. So that's what we did. And that's kind of the basic step one. So what we're trying to initially alleviate is, one, giving some hours back to the batch guy or anyone who is manually entering in information from a piece of paper. It's absolutely amazing how many pieces of paper still exist in this industry with some of the software solutions that are out there today, but it's again, this industry's slow to change, so it's still going to be out there for years to come. Our batch guys could be entering in, 200 plus tickets at the end of the day. You're selecting different material types, logging it into each silo, and then or ag bin or whatever, and then different vendors, and then what trucking vendor delivered it. So it can be a lot of manual work for someone who probably types at best 20 words a minute, so it could take a long time is my point. And what we wanted to solve and what we have solved for some customers is just snap a picture of this ticket, get it into this website. You don't even need to look at it. We'll turn that paper ticket into digital data. We'll send your tonnage that you received at the plant into the cloud, and then we'll send that data from the cloud back to Command Batch, and you can book your whatever material you received into inventory. And you can either do that in the cloud, so access to your data anywhere, and a book inventory into Batch anywhere you have access to the internet, so it's not limited to being on premise, which is really great. Or you could continue to do it in Command Batch. That data will show up in the Shipments tab, and all you can do is book it into inventory at that point too. So we wanted, again, going back to the foundation here, is eliminating manual data entry. We want to save the company time, the employee time, save money on hourly rate for the employee, save mental health for the batch guy who spends so many hours during the week doing that. So that's the ground level one. That's like the initial step. So the next step after that, kind of the medium, small to medium to mid-market scenarios, we have what's called forecasts and shipments. And the first one specifically was called shipments. Second one's forecasts and shipments. And this one is, okay, let's take that paper ticket data and let's get it into the cloud. And then let us also show you via a visualization dashboard, similar to like a Power BI or something like that, of what your incoming material loads actually look like. So if you've got 200 tons of sand incoming, we can give you a visualization of based on how many tons of whatever material coming in. You can actually see that in a graph and accurately calculate how many orders you could send out. So that's step two. And another piece of that too is not only can you see demand of incoming materials, but as orders are batched from the concrete plant, you can actually see the demand drop. So if you use X amount of tons of sand, you'll see on that graph in real time, because we read your stockpile, your inventory levels in Command Batch in real time, and you'll see those levels drop. So you get a forecast into not only demand, but real-time inventory status, which is can be extremely powerful for communication between, similar to my company as an example. Trucking dispatch team and the ready mix dispatch team were two totally segregated operations. They would send out a spreadsheet or an email that says, hey, we need X amount of tons of sand delivered at this plant tomorrow. And that was the communication between the two. So not only could we solve problem one with saving the batch guys some time entering in material receipts, but we can also increase the efficiency and communication between trucking dispatch and ready mix dispatch. Trucking dispatch just had access to that forecast and shipment screen. They could see in real time what their stockpile levels are. Now, how we did that in my experience was with cameras. We literally had 20 cameras set up at each plant, one camera in an overhead bin on the plant. One camera, inventory levels were actively monitored for cement and fly ash. So we had real-time inventory tracking on that. But for aggregates, we would just look at stockpile levels on a camera and say, oh, yeah, we probably need another truck or two. So getting access and insights to that real-time inventory data by not only inputting what you receive in real time, but also what you batch out in real time can be quite powerful. The last step, and this is kind of getting into the sausage making, is full-blown replenishment. And replenishment, typically what we've seen so far is more geared towards a fully vertically integrated company, operation that has their own quarry or cement locations. They're already running all the requisite software required, from ready mix dispatch to our aggregate ordering solution called Apex. They're running all the software required, and That replenishment can read current inventory levels, and as it gets low, automatically create that order in Apex to replenish that material as it drops in real time. So it's incredibly powerful. It certainly, has a bit more of a niche market, because to be in that specific scenario, you do have to have a little more requisites. And we see it, what I've seen in my experience so far is it's been primarily enterprise customer that kind of fit that bill. But every enterprise company started, somewhere, so they could fall into that mid to small to mid market area there, and then eventually get to that full blown replenishment cycle. But it's extraordinarily powerful tool. Now, with respect to getting information out to the public on this, we're starting a pretty heavy broadcast or a pretty heavy marketing campaign to get this out to the public, and we really want to start with telling that story of, let's do a crawl, walk, run approach here. Let's first solve the problem of accurately getting inventory into Command Batch without your batch guy or girl having to enter that themselves. That's the first step. Let's crawl with that. And then as we get comfortable with the product, let's start walking towards that forecast and shipments. Let's see what we got going out versus what's coming in. And then once we get to that full-blown sprint stage at that point, which again is more of a targeted market, we can completely automate that entire cycle. So from the time you pick up material at your quarry or cement terminals to the time you dispatch your truck to the time that truck arrives at the plant, you put it into inventory, and then you batch out the concrete. We've got full turnkey automated solution to fulfill that scenario there.
Yeah, and with all the automation there, you would no longer need your batch man to take pictures of the tickets at the end of the day either, right? You cut that step out as well, or they?
Yeah. So the step 3, the more comparatively speaking complex implementation at that point is, it's getting data directly from your Apex scales, for example. So it's coming directly from the database. So yeah, you wouldn't need to take pictures of tickets at that point anymore. And additionally, to move on that, if we have a connected vendor sharing order information, so vendor A is a seller of cement, and they're connected to our platform, they can share that order data with vendor B, and we can use that order data to update inventory levels as well. So there are some, we'd obviously need sign off from each vendor saying, hey, yeah, I'll share this order and ticket information with you. That has to get dealt with, but that's an easy email exchange. Yeah, thumbs up, go ahead. And then you could use that order data as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your own vertically integrated. It can be another platform connected provider of those materials.
Well, paperless ticketing in the ready-mix world is coming. It's coming fast. It's here for some people already. And one of the big concerns that I hear in the marketplace is that the little guys are scared to death because they're concerned that they're going to get left behind. Are you sensing any of that apprehension when you're out there talking to folks?
Because we experienced that. Prior to my time at Command, I mean, a large, part of my, my structure for my comp plan was in order to, achieve certain incentivized rewards, so to speak. It said in my employment agreement to actively pursue the latest and greatest technologies to increase efficiencies in back office processes. And one of those inefficiencies that we had, and many other ready-mix companies have, is paper tickets. And there's absolutely apprehension out there of feeling like they get left behind. I think a lot of that, that's potentially a salesperson's best thing they could use in their arsenal to sell a product, is like, you're folks down 3 exits away, they're already using this solution. You need to make sure you sign up so you're not getting left behind. That's a powerful, tool you could tell a customer, but it's also true. It's not just a simple sales manipulation tactic or anything like that. It's really honestly true. If some of those customers can get all their tickets paperless, just sent to them electronically, maybe they have a preference on who they buy that ready mix from.
Yeah, being in the business of concrete, unfortunately, it's viewed in the marketplace by the customers view it as a commodity, and
Absolutely.
when you have something that's used as a commodity, fortunately, price becomes just a disaster for the concrete salespeople. So the margins end up being low. It can be a little bit cutthroat. So when the small guys feel like they're going to be left behind, it's because they're concerned that they don't have the wiggle room to implement such a fancy solution like what Command's coming with, or even basic stuff that like the DOTs are kind of forcing down people's throats. How do you deal with those types of concerns when you have somebody who's got that type of fear?
For me, I would use past experience that I've had with other customers who did sign off on that solution. And I won't, of course, I won't tell that customer the customer name that I'm referring to, but anytime I get on a customer demo or anytime I communicate with people in general, my goal is what is coming across is authenticity. Like they believe every word I'm actually saying. I'm not just blowing smoke. And I do the same thing in technical demos when I'm telling them, hey, this is how customer A does it today. And look, it was tough at first. Like there was some change management when we went through, and we're going to have that here. It's going to be difficult. Expectation management is one of the most important things whenever you're trying to not only sell a product, but implement the product too. And as long as that customer knows, yeah, it's going to be a little bumpy. We're going to have to navigate some challenges here, but that's also what we're here for. Usually, in my experience so far, especially with, the ticket accounting software specifically, we've had some really great successes with it. So. And the other thing too, to kind of turn on my sales hat for a sec, is that, solving that very first step, the crawl stage, right? The updating inventory, using our inventory cloud-based platform as well as ticket accounting. It's extremely simple to implement. You just need an internet connection. You may download a mobile app or you may want to use a desktop scanner, but the implementation time compared to a traditional on-premise software, it's only weeks compared to what could be months to implement, a different software under our umbrella. And it's not directly apples to apples. You can't. I don't want anyone to take away that what I'm trying or what I've implemented is comparable to doing an Apex or a Command Series implementation. It's certainly different beasts, but how I try to make the customer feel comfortable moving forward with signing that contract or doing implementation is one, advocating on behalf of the customer, and two, it's one of our easiest implementations we have. You just snap a picture of the ticket, and we do all the stuff in the back end. And then you just look at the results via command batch, and then the folks that are crawling at that point, they're usually pretty happy.
Yeah, so. Our company's going through updating our ERP, and it's been
good.
1 year, 1.5 year, just nightmare.
I feel like in order to work in software to some extent, you kind of have you got to maintain that insatiable thirst for curiosity, and that includes things that are extremely difficult. And I remember prior to my time at Command, our CFO there wanted to implement an ERP system, and he kept telling me, "You're not ready for this. You're not ready for this." And I was against him. Yes, I am. Bring it on. I want the challenge because I want to see what's so bad about this. Like you're hyping it up and it's having like a reverse effect for me. Now I want it more because you think it's so challenging. And then we never ended up getting to the ERP because the company got bought out. So I never got to experience it, but I've never heard a good thing about going through an ERP implementation.
The only good thing is if you're the consultant who sold it and the amount of money that they just made.
Exactly.
To help implement it. That's the only good news, is that one person or whoever is making an absolute ton of money.
Yes, they are.
Joey's been a little quiet over there, brother. Got any questions for Mr. Billy Ripple?
We remember earlier in the podcast when you said some of those guys were not IT savvy. That's me. So I'm just sitting here listening.
Joey's the guy sending the support ticket, and your answer has to be turn it off and turn it back on.
Yeah.
Billy, you're not going to believe this, but the guy where it took him 30 seconds to get off mute, yeah, that's our resident IT dunce.
Dang,
Hey,
man,
I can usually hit the
you're
space
good.
bar, and it can act like a walkie-talkie, and it'll take me off mute, and it didn't work this time. So
Now I don't know your actual title, but based on my experience, I'm going to assume you sell concrete.
that's what most people that come in contact with me assume that don't know anything about what I do. They always ask for a concrete hookup.
Yeah, every time. That's hilarious.
Billy, we can't let you out of here. We got to ask you one question that we ask every guest that comes on the Add 10 Gallons Concrete podcast.
Let's hear it.
And that is, what is the craziest thing you've ever seen on a job site or at the plant site or at the quarry?
Man, that's a good one. The craziest thing for me. Okay, so I'll do concrete, and then I'll do my specific crazy story, but I don't want to come off as selfish. But for concrete, seeing my first mixer rollover was pretty wild.
Damn, he's right, though. I mean, we don't talk about that enough, but it happens.
Oh
Yeah.
man, way too often. Like,
Right?
you know, and especially if it's been raining and they're pouring in a new residential area and it just hasn't set yet, and then we come in with 9 yards and we only got 10 yards and we only got a 3-axle truck. It's just amazing how many mixer rollovers happen. So that always boggled my mind. The other thing, at a plant, I seen a pneumatic hose get blown off the silo while it was pumping cement into there. So that turned into a giant dust bowl really fast. That was pretty crazy. I thought something had exploded, and I guess it kind of did. For me, the craziest thing that happened to me, though, was we had opened up a new corporate office to move into as we were growing just exponentially year after year, and we needed more people, so we needed more space. So I had to put IT stuff in there, and I was running across the rooftops up top, running Cat5 cable, and my boss at the time, before he had left, he said, "Man, I hear you stomping up there and running around. Slow down, take it easy." It's like, yeah, man, no problem. Of course I didn't. And I went right through the roof, dude. I mean, just stepped in between the two studs, dropped down on the ground. Half my body's hanging out, the other half sitting up top. And one of the sales guys came through, and he happened to be walking through and was using the restroom. And he peeks his head out. He's like, "Whoa," you know, like for me, falling through the roof while trying to get some cables ran was pretty scary for me. Yeah, mixer rollovers always kind of trip me out. Thankfully, our drivers were always okay, but
Yeah, man, I think we've all seen a mixer rollover. I haven't seen like an active. I haven't seen like actually tip over in front of my eyes. But when you roll up to an intersection and there's fresh concrete all over the ground, you're just like, oh man,
Yeah.
it just hurts you. You're like, ooh,
it does.
good.
So much money is lost right there. Customers angry. Oh,
Yeah, nightmare. Hey, glad you're okay after falling through the roof. That's pretty good.
Right.
Actually, I think you're the first guest yet to have their crazy story be something that happened to them.
Yeah, like specifically to them.
happened
Yeah.
to you
Yeah.
rather than something that you
Yeah,
saw happen.
usually they're always outing somebody else for not being safe. Very
Yeah.
rarely do
No,
they take
yeah.
the onus upon themselves to,
yeah.
to admit that we all do it.
I'm a trendsetter. What can I say?
Well, Billy, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. If anybody listening here wants to reach out to you or find out more about what it is that you've got going on, how can they find you?
I'm available via email, bripple@commandalkon.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search either the Command Alkon page and click on the Employees tab and search my name there, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you would like to as well. I'd love to chat.
Can I tell you how jealous I am of this man and his easy to spell last name? Like he was like B Ripple, and he didn't have to spell it because
Yeah.
I got a last name that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's
So-
not spelled right, that's for sure.
It's not spelled right, that's for sure. So,
Yeah.
and this man is gonna be, oh yeah, I'm B Ripple. Just go find me.
Yeah.
That has to be so satisfying.
It is satisfying until I run into that concrete salesman who's been selling for 40 years. He's like, "Oh yeah, Ripple Wine, I remember that." And I'm like, "God, I hate this last name." Why am I getting reference to a $3 wine from back in the 70s. But
and
whatever.
we could not end this on a higher note. So, Billy
Cool.
Ripple, wine
dude.
and all. Thank you, brother. Appreciate
Thank you,
you.
dude. I appreciate it, guys.
Yep. All right, and that's going to do it for this episode of the Add 10 Gallons Concrete Podcast. We appreciate you guys listening in. One final thanks to Billy for all the knowledge, wisdom, and stories that he was able to share here today. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, leave a 5-star review and tell a friend about us. And in the meantime, look us up on our social media pages as well. We're always posting content on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Go back and look at the media we were able to gain at the Con Expo, as well as prior episodes and other quick clips and shorts that we put on there as well for your entertainment in between episodes. Thanks to ActiGel 208 for making all of this possible, and thanks to you, the listener, for tuning in. We love to see our listenership grow each and every episode. We really appreciate it, and hope that we can continue giving you guys a podcast that's not only informational but also entertaining as well. So until next time, y'all be good.